Okay, greetings one and all, and welcome to this math video. In this video, we will be considering the topic consumer math. Consumer math. Let's begin. Okay, this question says Eric buys 3 crack conch snacks at $14.50 each, and 2 conch snacks, and 2 conch salads at $12 each. Calculate the total cost. Now, for the total cost, what we're gonna do is we're gonna multiply 3 by 14.50 because he got 3 crack conch snacks, and we're gonna multiply 2 by 12 because he got 2 conch salads, and then 3 times 14.50, and then 2 times 12. Then we are going to add these two numbers. So $43.50 plus $24 is $67.50. And that's how we're going to get the total cost for Eric. Now, Eric buys 3 crack conch snacks at $14.50 each, and 2 conch salads at $12 each. VAT is 12%, right? VAT at 12% is added to the total. Calculate the amount due for VAT. Now remember, if we're trying to do amount due for VAT, it's going to be 12% of, right, the total. And of means multiply. So we're going to put 12 over 100 multiplied by 67.50 over 1. Then we multiply 12 times 67.50 is 810. And 100 times 1 is 100. We divide top and bottom. So 810 divided by 10 is $8.10. That's the amount due for VAT. Okay, now we want to figure out Eric's total bill. Now for the total bill, we need to add the price for the goods, the price for the snacks, or the price for the food, plus the VAT. And when we add them, we get $75.60. And that's going to be the price. That's going to be Eric's total bill. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says Eric pays with two $50 notes. So his bill is $75.60, and he pays with two $50 notes. That means he paid with basically $100 because 2 times 50 is 100. And so they want us to figure out the amount of the change. That's going to be 2 times 50 because it's two $50 notes, right? We want the amount of the change. Why did I add it? I am supposed to subtract it, right? There's supposed to be subtraction sign here. So the amount of the change, all right, this is supposed to be subtraction. This is supposed to be minus, so let's move that sign. It's supposed to be subtraction. So the amount of the change is going to be 100 minus $75.60, and that's going to be $24.40. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Here it says a man's basic wage for a 40-hour week is $38.40 per hour. Calculate his weekly wage. So the amount he's going to be paid per week. Well, he worked for 40 hours, and every hour he get paid is $38.40. So 40 times 38.40 is going to be 1,536. So his weekly wage is 1,536. The next question says that overtime is paid at time and a half. Calculate is paid for 1 hour overtime. Now, since they say that overtime is paid at time and a half, we're going to multiply his hourly pay by 1.5. And so we're going to say overtime is going to be 1.5 multiplied by the hourly pay, which is $38.40. So 1.5 times $38.40, that's going to be $57.60. So that's the amount that he is paid for 1 hour overtime. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says calculate his total wage. Calculate his total wage for a week when he works 58 hours. So what we need to do is we need to figure out the number of overtime hours worked. And so that's going to be 58 minus 40 because his regular working hours is 40. So we're going to say 58 minus 40, and that gives us 18. So that means that there were 18 hours of overtime that was worked. All right. Now we want to figure out the amount of money from the 18 hours of overtime work. So we're going to say 18 multiplied by 57.60. We're trying to figure out how much he got paid for overtime. So that's going to be $1,036.80 by multiplying 18 by 57.60, right? So we took 18 because he worked 18 hours overtime, and we multiplied by the amount that he's paid hourly for overtime, right? This is hourly. This is the amount that he is paid hourly for overtime, okay? Next, we want to figure out the total wage for a week when he works 58 hours. Now, the total wage is going to be how much he get for his basic weekly pay plus the overtime pay. So it's going to be 1,536 because that's the basic weekly pay plus the overtime pay, which is 1,000 $36.80. And then we add it. The answer is $2,572.80. That's the answer there. That's the total pay or the total wage for the week. Okay, let's move on. So the answer is $2,572.80. This next question says, at a time when the exchange rate of US currency to Guyanese currency is $1 equals to $208.65 of Guyanese money, Cheryl converts $500 to Guyanese. How much money does she receive in Guyanese? So in order to figure out the amount of money that she receives in Guyanese, we know that $1 equals to what? $208.65 of Guyanese money. So we know that she has what? She got $500. So we're gonna multiply 500 by $208.65, and that gives us 104,325 in Guyanese money, right? So $500 in Guyanese money is 104,325. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says Cheryl spends $77,617.80 in Guyanese money and converts the remaining to US. How much money does she receive in US? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna subtract 104,325. That's the amount that she had. Remember, she spent 77,617.80. So that's what she spent. So we're gonna subtract the two to figure out how much does she have left. So she have $26,707.20 left. And so we're gonna take that amount and convert that back into US. We're gonna do that by dividing. So we're gonna take $26,707.20, and we're gonna divide that by $208.65. Dividing, we get $128. So she have currently $128 in US money, right? All right. Okay. A tourist visited the Bahamas when the exchange rate was €1 equals $1.36 Bahamian. Upon arrival, she converted 640 euros into Bahamian dollars. Calculate the amount of Bahamian dollars she received. Remember that €1 is equal to $1.36 in Bahamian money. All right. So we're going to figure out the amount of Bahamian dollars she received when she converted that. We're going to say 1.36 multiplied by 340, and that's going to give us $870.40. So we converted that euro into Bahamian dollars. All right. Okay, so at the end of her vacation, she converted her remaining 102 Bahamian dollars back to euro. Calculate the amount of euros she received. So we're going to be trying to convert now from Bahamian dollars to euro. Remember that €1 is equal to $1.36 of Bahamian money. So the amount of euros she received is going to be $102 divided by $1.36. And we divide that, we get 75 euros. So she has $75 in euro that she's gonna take back home with her. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says to make a tuna salad of 6 servings, 240 grams of canned tuna fish is needed. Calculate the amount of grams of tuna. Calculate the amount of grams of tuna fish needed for 10 servings. Well, the first thing that we need to figure out is how much is for 1 serving, right? We know that 6 servings is 240 grams, but how much is 1 serving? In order to figure out what is 1 serving, we're gonna say 240 grams divided by 6, and that's gonna give us 40 grams. So 1 serving is 40 grams. But we want to figure out how much is 10 servings. So 10 servings is going to be 10 times that 1 serving. So 10 times 40, which is going to be 400 grams. So 10 serving, the amount of grams of tuna fish needed for 10 servings is 400 grams. The next question says, calculate the number of servings that can be obtained. Calculate the number of servings that can be obtained from 600 grams of tuna fish. We already know that 1 serving is 40 grams. So we're going to take 600 grams and divide it by 40 grams, and that's going to tell us the amount of servings that can be obtained, and that's 15 servings. Okay, it says a taxi driver charges $3 for the first mile of a journey and 50 cents for each additional mile. Calculate the cost of a 9-mile journey. So the first thing we need to figure when we're trying to figure out the cost of this 9-mile journey is we need to figure out, okay, how much was the cost for the first mile? And the cost for the first mile was $3. So that's 1 times 3 because it's $3. It's the cost for the first mile. But we are left with 8 miles left, right? And those 8 miles, they charge you $50, 50 cents for each additional miles. It's going to be 8 times 50 cents, which is written as 0.50. And then we say 1 times 3, which is 3, and then 8 times 50 cents is $4. And so we add them and we get $7. So the cost for the 9-mile journey is $7. The next question says a taxi driver charges $3 for the first mile of a journey and 50 cents for each additional mile. Another journey costs $13.50. Find the length of this journey. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out, we need to deduct from this price the cost for the first mile, which is going to be $3. So it's going to be $13.50 minus $3. That's the cost of the first mile. So we're left with $10.50 left. And what we need to do is we need to divide that by 50 cents to figure out the cost for the other miles, or to figure out rather how many other miles did he travel other than the first one. And when we do that, we get 21. So that means that we have 21 miles, right? Plus the first additional mile. So I plus the first mile up top, right? So the first mile plus 21 miles, that's going to be equal to 22 miles. So the length of this journey that costs $13.50 is 22 miles. It says write down the formula for finding the cost C for a journey of M miles. Okay, so the formula that I came up with is C is equal to the cost, right? It's equal to 0.5, open bracket, M, which is miles, minus 1, close bracket, plus 3. All right, that's the formula that I came up with, and that's the formula I think will work. Now, why does this formula make sense? Well, the formula is saying is that, let's do calculation. So let's check it. So let's say, for example, we had 1 mile, right? If we only had 1 mile, how much would it cost us? Regular calculations, if we do that, it's only $3. Because only 1 mile, the first mile, that's $3. Does our formula match what we said? Well, we have to apply our formula. It's only 1 mile, so wherever we see mile, 1 mile, we're gonna put, wherever we see M, we're gonna put 1, so M is right there, so it's 1 minus 1. And that's gonna be 0, so it's 1 minus 1 is 0, and so that means 0 times 0.5 is 0. So the whole thing is 0, and we add a 3, so it's just 3. So for the first mile, we see that, the formula holds. Let's go for 2 miles. So the calculation for the 2 miles is going to be 3, right? That's for the first mile. And that's why my formula has 3 right here. Like it doesn't change because 3 is always going to be a part of it once you did at least 1 mile. So 3 is standalone plus a 0.5, right? Why 0.5? Because that's for the additional mile, right? That's for one more additional mile. So that's the 50 cents for that. So it's going to be $3.50. Okay, so let's look at my formula. I'm saying that we have 0.5 multiplied by 2 minus 1. Why it's 2? It's 2 because it's 2 miles, right? And so it's going to be 2 minus 1, which is going to be 1. So 0.5 times 1 plus 3, which is going to be $3.50, right? So we get the same thing so far. Now for the last one, 3 miles, let's see if we get the same thing. If we're trying to figure out the cost for 3 miles, it will be $3, right? $3 plus, well, $3 for the first mile, plus 2 times 50 cents. Why 2? Because you already account for the first mile, right? Now you gotta say, now you have 2 more miles left, so it's gonna be 2 times 0.5. And this is where the formula came from, right? Because if you look carefully, every time we do a calculation, right? Every time we do the calculation, this number here, right, is going to be 1 less than the amount of miles you travel. Again, this number is going to be 1 less than the amount of miles that you travel. And so that's why it's M minus 1, because this number right here, right? This number right here that we multiplied by 0.5, it's always going to be 1 less than the amount of miles that we have. Why? Because the first mile is already accounted for, right? So this number that we multiply by 0.5 every time is going to be 1 less than the amount of miles that is. So it's M minus 1. Okay, and so when we do the formula, it's the same thing, 3 minus 1 plus 3, 0.5 times 2 plus 3, 0.5 times 2 is 10, and so, I'm sorry, 0.5 times 2, 0.5 times 2 is 1, and 1 plus 3 is 4. Okay, and so we get the same thing. So this formula is definitely correct. You're going to take the amount of miles that you have, subtracted by 1, right? 1 less than the amount of miles that you are driving, multiply that by 0.5, and then add it by 3. Okay, that's the idea. Mr. Ferguson's house is insured for $284,000. The insurance premium with hurricane coverage is $1.25 per $100. So for every $100, you have to pay 1.25, right? So again, for every $100, you have to pay 1.25. It says calculate the amount Mr. Ferguson would have to pay for an insurance with hurricane coverage. So remember, every $100, you have to pay $1.25, right? So we have 284,000. How many $100 is inside this? So let's divide. 284,000 divided by 100 is going to be 2,840. Then we have to take this. So that means that there are 2,840 $100 in 284,000. So we have to take 284,000. So we have to take 2,084 and multiply it by 1.25, and that gives us 3,550. All right, let me explain again. Again, we're trying to figure out how many $100 is inside 284,000. When we divide them, we get that there are 2,840 $100. And so we have 2,840, and we have to multiply it by 1.25. And when we multiply it by 1.25, we get 3,550. That's going to be the amount that he has to pay for the hurricane coverage. All right, calculate how much Mr. Ferguson will have to pay if his house sustained $53,700 worth of damages. Remember, or note that Mr. Ferguson has to pay the first 2% of any claim. So if you're making any claim, he has to pay the first 2% of that claim, right? So the first question is, or the question that they have here is, how much money Mr. Ferguson will have to pay if his house sustained $53,700 worth of damages? But it is going to be 2%. Remember, you have to pay 2% of every claim. So it's going to be 2% of 53,700. Now, when we say of, what do we mean? Well, of means to multiply. So we're going to say 2 over 100 multiplied by 53,700. We multiply the 2 and the 53,700, and we get 107,400 over 100. We divide by 100, and we get 1,074. So if he sustained, if his house sustained $53,700 worth of damages, he have to pay the first 2%, which is $1,000, $1,074. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says, Mr. Ferguson decides not to insure for hurricanes. The insurance premium is now only 0.45 per $100. Calculate his savings at this lower premium. So he don't want the hurricane coverage one. He wants the one without the hurricane coverage, and the one without the hurricane coverage is less. You only have to pay 45 cents for every $100. So let's first again figure out how many $100 is inside 284,000. All right, let's do that. So if we divide it by 100, we get 2,840, which means that there are 2,840 $100 inside of 284,000. And so we have to multiply that by 45 cents, and we get 1,278. So that's how much you have to pay in this new premium. But remember the old premium. The old premium was 3,550. We subtract the old one with the new one because the new one is less. And so how much he would have to save? Well, he would be saving $2,272 dollars, right? Just by choosing a lower premium, right? Or just by choosing another premium, he saved $2,272. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says, calculate his percentage decrease in payments. So what we have to do is we have to calculate, we have to take the savings and put that over the original cost. So the savings, right, which was right there, the savings that we just calculate all over the original cost, right? And we multiply that by 100. And so we do 2,272 multiplied by 100. That gives us this number. And then we multiply 3,550 by 1. And that gives us that same thing. We divide and we get 64%. So that means that that's a 64% decrease in payment. Whereas he was paying 3,550 and now he's only paying 1,278. So it's a 64% decrease. Okay, let's move on to the next question. This one is 2012. We have different cars here. Model Iron 1. The base price is 12,975. Model Ion 2. The base price is 14,945. For Model Ion 3, the base price is 16,470. Now it says Ion Car Sales is the local leader for Ion Car. The table below shows the models and options available for the car. So we can get brakes, we can get sunroof, we can get air conditioning, and so on and so forth. So it says calculate the total cost for the Ion 3 model with all the available options. So we have to get the model Ion 3, that's this one. So first of all, it's going to cost us $6,470 because that is the base price, right? Then we need the anti-locking braking system because we want all the available options. So that's $400. Then we want the side airbag. So that's going to be $395. Then we want the sunroof, which is $725. Then we want the rear spoiler, which is $250, right? Now the air conditioning comes with the Ion 3. That's standard with the Ion 3. The Bassman music system, we get that automatically for Ion 3. And the power package, we get that automatically for Ion 3. So that's the only thing these are the only things that we have to buy. Add them all up and we get $18,240. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says we want the total cost for the Ion 1, all available options. Ion 1. Well, the Ion 1 base price is 12,000, right? 12,975. That's the first thing. So 12,975. We also want the anti-braking system, so that's 400. We also want, well, sunroof is not available for Ion 1, so we can't get that. Rear spoiler is not available for Ion 1. And we need the air condition. Do we? Well, we need the side bags. Yeah, we need the side bags. We need the air condition because that doesn't come standard with Ion 1. And we also need the Bassman music system, which is Ion 1 is $510. And so we add that. The power package is not available for Ion 1, so we can't even include that because they don't have that for Ion 1. So we add all of them together, we get 15,240. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says we want the difference in price, right? The difference in price between the basic model Ion 2 and the model Ion 1 with all the available options. Okay, so we want a difference between basic model Ion 2 and model Ion 1. Remember we already did model Ion 1, that was the last thing we just did. Ion 2 we haven't done yet. So let's do Ion 2. Ion 2, it costs 14,945. That's the base price. $400 for the anti-locking system. 3,975 with the airbags. 725. Yeah, this is available for Ion 2. So 725. 725, that's available there. 250 for the rear spoiler, we need that. And you automatically get a nice air condition, so we don't need that. We need a Bassman system, which is $220 right there. And then you need the power package, which is $825. Okay, let's move on to adding them. So we get 17,760. Now, if you want to find a difference in price, well, we already saw the Model I on one, the last question. We saw that was 15,240. Now, the difference in price is going to be 17,760 minus 15,240. And that is the difference in price between Model Ion 2 and Model Ion 1. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says a tourist visited the Bahamas when the exchange rate was €1 is equal to $1.56 Bahamian. Upon arrival, she converted $650 into Bahamian dollars. Calculate the amount of Bahamian dollars received. So in order to figure out the amount of Bahamian dollars received, what we're gonna do? We're gonna say 650 multiplied by 150. And then when we multiply them, we get 1,014. Okay, next up, we have that's the amount of Bahamian dollars received. At the end of her vacation, she converted her remaining $117 Bahamian back to euros. So calculate the amount of euros she received. So we have to say the amount of euros is going to be $117 divided by $1.56. And so when we divide those two together, we get $75. So that's the amount of euros she received when she converted the Bahamian back to euros. Okay, this question says Suzanne bought 3.5 yards of material at $8.70 per yard and 5 yards of trim. And 5 yards of trim. She spent $32.90 in total. Calculate the cost of 1 yard. Again, she bought 3.5 yards of material, $8.70 per yard, and 5 of these lace trims, 5 yards of lace trim. She spent $32.90 in total. Calculate the cost of 1 yard of lace trim. Okay, so in order to figure out the cost of 1 yard, we have the cost of 3.5 yards, and that's going to be what? Well, 3.5 times 80, because it says she bought 3.5 yards of material at $8.70 per yard. So if it's $8.70 per yard and we have 3.5 yards, in order to figure out the cost for those yards, it's going to be 3.5 times $8.70, which is $30.45. Now the cost of cars of the now we want to figure out the cost of 5 yards of lace trim. All right, so cost of 5 yards of lace trim, that's going to be $32.90 minus $30.45. Why? Because we're trying to figure out the cost of 5 yards. The first one we figured out for the first one the cost of 3.5 yards. Here we're going to figure out the cost of 5 yards. And we subtract $32.90 minus $30.45, and that gives us $2.45 to figure out the cost of 5 yards of lace trim. Now, how are we going to figure out the cost of 1 yard of lace trim? We know the cost of 5 yards, which is 30.45. We know the cost of 5 yards of lace trim, which is $2.45. And so now we need to figure out what is the cost of 1 yard. Okay, so it's going to be cost of 1 yard of lace trim. Okay, I move forward. Okay, so that's going to be $2.45 divided by 5, because the cost for 5 yards, right, is $2.45. So the cost of 1 yard of lace trim is going to be $2.45 divided by 5, which is 49 cents. Okay, 49 cents. Okay, 49 cents. Now what we need, that's the cost for 1 yard. That's what they want, the cost for 1 yard of lace trim. Okay, to make a tuna loaf for 5 servings, 250 grams of canned tuna is needed. Calculate the amount of grams of tuna fish needed for 8 servings. We did a question like this before. If you're trying to figure out one serving is going to be 250 grams divided by 5. Why? Because we know that 5 servings is 250 grams. And so if we divide, we get 50 grams. So 1 serving of this tuna fish. One serving is 50 grams. Now we want 8 servings, so it's going to be 8 multiplied by 50, which is going to be 400. So 400 grams is 8 servings. Okay, now we want to figure out the number of servings that can be obtained from 600 grams of tuna fish. But for this one, we have to divide 600 and the amount for 1 gram, which is 50. When we divide it, we get 12. So 12 servings can be obtained from 600 grams of tuna fish. All right, this question says, last week, Tom bought a shirt on sale for $26. This week, the regular price of the same shirt is $40. What was his actual saving? Well, we just have to subtract. So the actual saving is $40 minus 26, which is going to be 14. So he saved $14. Now we want to represent his savings as a percentage of the regular price. So it's going to be, let's first write the fraction, 14 over 40, that's the regular price, 14 over 40, multiplied by 100 over 1. So 14 times 100 is 1,400. And 40 times 1 is going to be 40. And so we divide 1,400 divided by 40, and we get 35%. So his percent saving is going to be 35 cents. Okay, that brings us to the end of this lesson. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.